Hey, Pastor John Perminsky here from Restored Church. Just want to welcome you to our podcast. For those of you who don't know me, I've been in the ministry for 30, going on 31 years, 27, almost 28 of those as the lead and founding pastor here at Restored Church. And I just want you to prayerfully consider supporting the ministry here at Restored Church. It can be a one-time gift or recurring gift. Just want to encourage you to do that. And welcome to our podcast. Thanks for tuning in. And here is today's message. So welcome to our Restore podcasts. Today, we're blessed to have Ben Gurk with us, Ionia Public School Superintendent. And Ben, welcome.
Hey, thanks so much.
Man, when did you come to know the Lord? I don't know if we've ever talked about this. When did you come to know the Lord?
You know, I grew up in Dearborn by Detroit. Okay. My mom had a lot of faith. She was raised in the Romanian Orthodox Church.
Okay.
But growing up, I'd go to various churches, and in college, I just happened to randomly stumble upon a pastor from Texas, Pastor John Hagee.
Yes.
Watch some of his stuff, and my wife and I, baptized in our 20s, born again Christians, and
Wow.
It's just been a journey learning and growing closer to the Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wild.
I can't think of any one moment.
Right. But it's been like a constant growth. You were raised around it. But there was definitely a point of softening, whether it was the way you were raised, whether it was you watching public, television with, John Hagee on TV, or the fact that when you got married, you really decided, man, let's commit to the Lord. How did, because you've got a background in the military, you were a Marine. What was that like, being in the Marines? That had to have been a strong culture there. What was that like? So you weren't married when you were a Marine, were you? You got married after the fact?
Right. Yep. I joined the Marine Corps Reserve when I was 19. I ended up doing 2 tours active duty in Iraq.
Wow.
I was 23, 24. And then I met my wife after that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did the military prepare you for life today? Because everyone that I ever talked to that was in the military is always like grateful for it. They're always great. How did it prepare you?
It's great. A lot of accountability and teamwork, camaraderie, attention to detail.
Oh yeah.
And you get thick skin. Have to grow thick skin.
Oh yeah.
So.
Which has paid off huge. Now that you are the Ionia Public School Superintendent, you need thick skin today. And so you got to believe that prepared you to first be the high school principal, then to be, the public school superintendent. I can't imagine, the challenges. I talk all the time to people about the things that kids deal with today. We never had to deal with. I probably could count on one hand all of my, kindergarten through 12th grade kids that I knew that were on any medication whatsoever. I think I remember maybe one kid was on Ritalin, and I didn't even know what that was. I probably could have been put on Ritalin. What are some of the biggest challenges of being a public school superintendent that you face today?
Yeah, you nailed it. With there's so many positives to social media, but there's many dangers too. So what I say, you'll appreciate this. It's almost like when we grew up, we had one forbidden tree, one forbidden fruit, but now with social media, there's so many more avenues and pitfalls.
Yeah.
It's difficult for teens to navigate all that. And So we're doing our best to support parents and kids through that. We actually have a good free parent seminar February 6th in the evening.
Okay.
I went to it last month. They're called Protect Young Eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll be coming in February 6th to present to parents,
Wow.
help us navigate what can be very challenging nowadays.
Yeah.
So,
man, social media affects so much. We were just talking in our staff meeting today about how, wouldn't it be nice if we could make the church fast social media? And then they said, but we communicate so much on social media. They go, what about, the podcasts that you're doing and the Monday teachings that you're doing? And what about, I'm thinking, it's like a double-edged sword. But I remember feeling the same way about the internet when it first started to hit the scene.
yeah.
I remember not wanting to be on the internet. And then my buddies go, you got to be. You don't have a choice, Mental health is like a huge issue today in our school system. I mean, how do you deal with all the aspects of mental health? I mean, geez, educators today almost have to be part pharmacist, part counselor, part, it's not enough for them just to be certified to teach anymore. I mean, how do you deal with all of that?
Yeah, teaching's heroic. It's, safety, security, mental health, AI. Oh, by the way, there's math and literacy. But yeah, my wife and I forget what book we found it in, but we started to do 4 or 5 hours on Sunday, screen-free Sabbath. So my wife, myself, our 2 kids, we'll do 4 or 5 hours every Sunday, no screens. And it improves mental health. You can read, play games, rest, work out.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
Okay. Well, even our kids will say we don't like to watch the kids watch too much television. They'll tell us that.
Right.
And I'm thinking, I'm 61 years old. I want my grandkids to watch television. It's tiring chasing them all around, but I totally get why it's almost like the exact opposite of the way that we were raised. It seems like growing up, television was our life.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're finding our kids saying, hey, mom and dad, we don't want them to watch too much television. We try to limit their TV. And they say they notice their behavior rises and falls based on how much television they have. In fact, the more television their kids have, it seems like the harder it is to get them to go to sleep at night. Wow, that's a great idea. Fasting the Sabbath. How do you foresee helping these kids? Because I question whether you would even know off the cuff, what the percentages of kids that start school and finish all the way to 12th grade. How do you, what are your challenges seeing them through to completion?
Yeah, one thing we like to emphasize is the Angela Duckworth definition of grit. Persevering with passion towards a long-term goal.
Right.
So if we can get students to establish a long-term goal, where do you want to be 5, 10, 20 years? Now you can persevere, work through difficult practices, homework, because you have a long-term goal.
Yeah.
So we really love that definition. And
I like that.
so that way you're not going through every day.
I might steal that from church and tell Christians to persevere with some long-term goal. It seems like people get so frustrated. It seems like depression is such a huge factor today, and heaviness, and people are weighed down by all especially this time of year. I can't imagine. Do you see an uptick this time of year, the Christmas season, in attitudes at school?
Yeah, a little bit. A lot of anxiety, home stability, food stability, but
yeah.
There has been a ton of outpouring and support from United Way to Toys for Tots, Ione VFW, on and on. Just so many groups supporting people with food and clothing.
Community is huge. How many kids do we feed through the school systems? Do you have any idea? Because they're really like food programs, and I've heard superintendents. I just watched. I can't remember what superintendent here in Michigan said one of the reasons that he hates snow days for schools, even though kids love them, he said is because he knows there are kids that won't be fed.
Yeah, good point. Well, We offer free lunch to everyone, but I think, don't quote me, but around 300 elementary kids also get assistance with I'm Kids third meal.
Yep, I've heard about I'm Kids.
I think it's about 300 elementary kids.
Wow.
So they do great work too. And
wow. How important is it to you that, and I know that you can't hire, in a public school system based on whether someone's a believer or not. I mean, you're looking at the resume, but I know prayer matters to you because we pray weekly with community leaders. How important is prayer? I mean, to what you do. I mean, I know we're always praying for you, but how important is prayer to you in regards to what you do, the schools?
Yeah, I mean, I should probably do a lot more prayer.
We all should.
But especially with the holidays, it's easy to get caught up with who's getting what for whom. And
yeah,
I just really want to refocus on myself and focus on Christ.
Yeah.
And try to not be distracted with how many gifts you got for each.
Yeah. And we just recently had to redo the whole security system at the high school, and I know that was a big expense. And kids have to be trained now what to do if there is a shooter on campus and stuff that we never. I mean, we were hiding under our desk for tornado drills and stuff like that. Fire alarms. That was the extent of our training. It's a whole different ball game. So safety's everything today, isn't it?
Yeah. We're always conducting drills. I mean, we're confident we have the best safety protocols in place. I think you alluded to our new smart boot system. So we have the top of the line when it comes to safety and security measures. And it's a team effort, from mental health to secure infrastructure, open communication. So we know if there's an issue beforehand. And
okay, and then the last thing I want to bring up, if there's anything that, at least from my perspective, that seems to be like so daunting today, it's kids struggling with their identity. I know of recent occurrences of a kid that got in trouble at school because another student believed that they were a dog and they were barking at him. And he got irritated with it and he responded inappropriately and he got in trouble. I know that there are kids that call themselves furries because they believe they're animals. I know that kids might identify as a different gender from one day to the next. How do you balance all of that confusion and make it fair across the board for all the students? How do you do that? There's got to be tremendous pressure on you. How do you balance that? I mean, I think it's amazing the job that you do.
Thank you.
How do you balance that?
We just try to live by our core values, growth mindset, respect, integrity, teamwork, community, pride, and we're all bulldogs. We look different, but, we may have to agree to disagree at times, but we can do so politely.
Yeah.
And
so you haven't put a third set of bathrooms in for people that don't know what they are from day to day. If a boy wants to be a girl wants to be a boy, there's not a third set of bathrooms. You've somehow been able to navigate that, haven't you?
Yeah, we work with families and kids and, make sure they feel supported.
Yeah.
We have bathrooms, and then we also have single stall bathrooms with keys. So I haven't heard much lately.
No, I haven't either.
And if there's any issues, bring it to the principal or myself.
Yeah.
We'll handle it accordingly.
Man, I think you're doing a remarkable job, and it's just a blessing to have you and your leadership in the community. And I really love the Ionia public school system, and I'm promoting it all the time. And I believe that we are really holding to some conservative values better than most. I'm listening to some of the things going on around some of the other school districts not far from us, and I think it's pretty amazing. And it's funny. we always think that Christianity is determined by what we say. I think it's much more determined by the way we live, by the way we act.
Mm-hmm.
And you carry yourself in a very disciplined way. And don't you think discipline is a huge part of Christianity and, just life? Being Marine and doing tours taught you anything. It had to be disciplined. You had to be mentally tough. You had to be, and so, man, and you bring that, in your leadership. You see it. What are some books that you would recommend? I know you're an avid reader. What are some books? What's the book that you were just encouraging everybody to read?
The Anxious Generation.
The Anxious Generation.
Yep. He's got great data. Kids need more time outside, free play, less time on their screens. That's a great book. It's a new one. I've got a lot of books I love. I don't know. You'd have to narrow it down with the genre.
Okay, let me pick books on the military. I've tried to read The Art of War. That's like a difficult read. So I tried to pick it up and I'm thinking everybody's talking about this book. I tried to. What are some books that you would recommend for just leadership that have impacted you? Because I know you're a reader. You read military books. I know that you read leadership books. Mm-hmm. What is a book maybe that's impacted you the most?
Probably The Truth About Leadership and the Leadership Challenge by Kouzes and Posner. I like those books a lot.
Okay.
I love Unbroken, Laura Hildenbrand, World War II story Lose ever reading.
Oh, yeah. Great story. The Olympic.
Yeah.
I've seen both movies. A lot of people don't know that there's a second movie, and it's where he's becomes a Christian.
Billy Graham brings him to Christ.
Oh, yeah. They don't show that one, man. That's my favorite. I'm thinking, this is better than the first one, about his horrendous alcoholism, how he gets saved in a tent revival. You don't see that. And what's beautiful in the movie is it's Billy Graham's grandson that portrays Billy Graham in the movie.
Oh, wow.
You got to see it.
I saw the first one.
Got to see the second one. Second one's amazing. Great job. And literally shows, I think they alluded to it in the first one, but I think it goes into maybe even a little bit more detail how he reaches out to that Japanese leader that
bird.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That really tortured him, and he went back to reconcile and stuff with him. Pretty incredible story. How he comes to Christ. You don't get that in the first movie, and how he sees all this restoration. And he really, all that he'd been through, he lived a pretty long life. I think he was in like his late 80s or maybe 90 when he died. He lived a long time. Mm-hmm. Long time. Remarkable stuff. Yeah. Well, man, I appreciate anything that you would encourage parents with before we get off. I know it's not easy out there, especially for single parents.
Yeah, reach out to us. We're here to support you, and I like the advice in The Anxious Generation. If you do nothing else, do a little less screen time.
Yeah.
With your kids, and that can't hurt. So
yeah. Good stuff. Well, man, I appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you.
God bless everybody, and we'll catch you on our next podcast.